Joe Biden signed the $1.2 trillion spending package into law on Saturday. And so let's jump on that a little bit. So the budget narrowly avoided the budget deal. Excuse me, my framing, guys, this morning. I got to get my eyes checked or eat some more carrots or something. Okay, so President Joe Biden, this comes by way of Instagram, signed a $1.2 trillion spending package into law on Saturday, March 23rd, finalizing the government's budget for the remainder of the fiscal year until October 1st. The budget deal narrowly avoided a government shutdown, passing the Senate early Saturday morning and the House Friday. Despite last-minute disagreements from opposition and from some hardline Republicans, the passage of this spending bill comes after a tumultuous period in Congress which saw the ousting of Kevin McCarthy last October and Speaker Mike Johnson facing a motion for the removal of MTG. You can just see their biases after the House package was approved. Long story short, $1.2 trillion spending package enacted into law. What are your thoughts?
I think we need to read through it because I don't even know what goes into it. All as I know is that right now, $1.2 trillion is only going to get us till October, and then we have to do this all over again. So if you've been paying attention, it's happening consistently. Every quarter, every 6 months, they're constantly having to fight to get this spending bill. So I want to read through some of the things that are in this and see if we can dissect it. It is a lot.
It is a lot.
It's almost too much to read on this podcast, but
check this out though. Before you start, 1,012 pages is how long this bill is to be read.
It's crazy. It passed 286 to 134, and I'm trying to get my bearings on this breakdown here.
Yeah, so it is a pretty lengthy article, which we will include in the show notes.
So it says the bill for the fiscal year of 2024, which includes the last 6 of Congress' normal 12 annual appropriation bills, contains billions. Case requested for Hawaii. It follows enactment last month of $565 billion measure covering the first 6 of the normal 12 funding bills. See here. So it goes into more detail, but some of the provisions of the special interest to Hawaii, for which Case advocated through 2024, include $106 million to work to close the Red Hill fuel tank facility and remediate concerns related to other water crisis. Obviously, there's been a lot going on in Hawaii with the major fire that they had.
Right.
$5 million for U.S. Indo-Pacific Command's community engagement. $46 million for Native Hawaii education program. $22 million for East-West Center. $1 billion to the SBA, which I'm for that one. $27 million for women's business centers programs. I don't know what that means. Mm-hmm. $173 million for adult employment and training activities. I don't know what that means. $320 million for emergency management grants. $12.3 billion for Head Start, an increase of $275 million.
Yeah.
A lot of defense spending. We're talking
$800 billion.
$824.5 billion in defense spending, which, I mean, I guess we need that. And who knows what else is stacked there. I mean, the list is, dude, guys.
There's a lot, dude.
This is just somebody trying to pull out each line item.
$40 million to advance the development of next step radar system to protect Hawaii from missile attacks. Like, hey, all due respect, I know it's hard, but missile attacks? Like, are you expecting that? Are we really expecting that? $178 million for sea-based X-band radar, which helps defend Hawaii from ballistic missile threats. I thought that was what you had $40 million for, to advance the next step radar system.
But it goes to show you a lot of these things, obviously related to the military. Those are important. The SBA, small business makes up 70% of the economy.
Yeah.
Those things are important. But the amount of programs that the federal government is sponsoring is just downright out of hand. Like, if you were an entrepreneur and you ran a business and you had your hands in this many things, you would not be very successful at pretty much anything.
Correct.
You're partially good at a lot of things. And so I don't entirely know how this stuff gets put together. That's my own ignorance and something that I'm trying to learn more about. But, who decides how much and when and why we spend on these things? But truthfully, the best medicine is to just let them run out of money, right? Because clearly none of these, if you have to constantly have the federal government step in and fund these things, it means you don't make money.
Correct.
Or you're bad at managing your money. And so Speaking about bad at managing your money, I mean, we're spending, what was the quote? $1 trillion.
$1 trillion.
Every 90 days, the debt in this country is going up.
Yes.
And so there was a post about it that we wanted to share with you guys because it's pretty important.
Yeah. So
click over to the LinkedIn post. Yeah.
Look at that. Issuances of U.S. Treasuries are now at pandemic levels. We've seen nearly $7 trillion in gross issuances of U.S. Treasuries in just 3 months during 2023. For the entire year of 2023, a whopping $23 trillion in U.S. Treasuries were issued. U.S. federal debt is rising by $1 trillion every 90 days right now. U.S. government spending as a percentage of GDP is at World War II levels. I believe it's like 123%, 128%. Why are Treasury, Rick Lang, this all comes by way of Rick Lang, and he asked the question, why are Treasury issuances and deficits at record levels if we are on track for a soft landing? Issuances of U.S. Treasuries are now at pandemic levels. Courtesy of LinkedIn and Rick Lang. And dude,
yeah, it's
how do entrepreneurs begin this, and everyday folks, the people they lead, begin to sort of wrap their mind around this environment? Like,
I mean, the first thing is, one of the benefits of being an entrepreneur is just the fact that you can fight against some of these things, right? Because there's benefits that come to you as an entrepreneur, right? You can have write-offs and not pay taxes and do things like that. But it does mean your operational costs are going to go up because inflation is clearly prominent. They're just fictitiously adjusting the market right now to try to have this soft landing. But behind the curtain, they're printing more money for spending bills. They're printing more money for M0 money, which is like central bank money that then goes into the bank supply to try to keep these banks solvent, which I think is a growing issue. So there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes in banking, and that was already alluded to. We talked about it in a previous podcast where the Fed chairman was talking specifically about how there are some insolvent banks out there. Yeah. And there's going to be more banks.
There's going to be more bank failures. One thing I wanted to do, though, as we continue to dive deep on this piece, is if you didn't know what a treasury bond is, I wanted to pull this up for you guys. And Cole, you may not have this link, but I think it's in the document. But if you go to Investopedia and just say, what is a treasury bond? A treasury bond will be defined as government debt securities issued by the U.S. federal government that have maturities of 20 or 30 years. T-bonds earn periodic interest until maturity, at which point the owner is paid a par amount equal to the principal. Treasury bonds are part of the larger category of U.S. sovereign debt that is now eclipsing 123% of GDP, known collectively as treasuries. So when we talk about treasury levels being high, this is what we're talking about. And which are typically regarded as virtually risk-free since they are backed by the U.S. government's ability to tax its citizens. That's a key point. When we talk about what these things are, the value from an investment side or from the financial side is that these things run on the back of taxation, or as Samson has been alluding to, the ability to print money.
Yeah.
And so...
Which is the problem, right? Is you keep issuing debt to fund tons and tons of erroneous programs.
Right.
You keep overspending.
Right.
Eventually, you have to print money, right? You can't just use taxpayer money anymore in order to do that. But that leads us to this fundamental question, which is, if they can just print more money, then why are we still paying taxes? What's the point? And so I actually searched that, Googled that question. And so... the IRS had a wonderful answer for me.
Okay.
It basically said taxes provide revenue for federal, local, and state governments to fund essential services, defense, highways, police, a justice system that benefit all citizens who could not provide such services very effectively for themselves. Taxes also fund programs and services that benefit only certain citizens, such as health, welfare, social services, job training, schools, and parks. And it goes on to list a bunch of other things. But we pay more in federal taxes than we do actually in state taxes. So you're not actually feeling a lot of that immediate impact in and around your own community.
Right.
In fact, the entrepreneurs, the business owners, the property owners, those are the ones that end up paying for all that stuff. Yeah. Right. If you're an employee who doesn't really own assets, you're getting taxed too. But it's still just blows my mind. It's just how And why are we paying taxes? I don't know the answer other than that's just the way that it's always been. But I think, if you're listening to this, if you're an entrepreneur, it's just a testament to, making your money, diversifying your assets into other things, and essentially working to exit stage left from the system.
Yeah.
Right. This is where a guy like Dave Ramsey, and he really advocates for not having a lot of debt, not being controlled. If you don't have debt and you own assets outright and you're not participating in the system, which is everything's run by debt right now, then there's a lot of peace in that.
Yeah.
And a lot of headspace to be creative or think through things clearly as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And as he would put it, freedom. Because biblically, right? You're slave to the lender.
Yeah. So there's a lot of freedom. So obviously using debt is strategic.
Yeah.
But it just blows my mind that the federal government doesn't make any money. And they don't.
Can you say that again? Because
they don't make any money.
That's essential.
And so they rely on us as taxpayers to do that. But now they just print money. They can create money. And that's a real problem. And so the cure for all of this is to actually just start letting these programs go tits up, right? Just let them fall apart, stop funding them, and force them to be better capital allocators, better at managing their money. But man, we've gotten so addicted to the machine of just print more money. Well, give me more money. I want my cut.
Well, and being frank, in hearing all this, the question that I'm asking myself is, if you need to make money, but the government could just print money, at what point do the people realize that their money isn't money? Right. And the money that we think is money becomes worthless.
And this is what's been said ever since we moved off of a gold-backed currency. A dollar backed by nothing is really just zeros and ones.
Right.
It doesn't mean anything. I mean, how much cash do you generally carry on you?
$50.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And so if you went into bank account today and you wanted to get 50 grand out, that might be challenging to do that, right?
Right.
I had an investor recently give me everything in cash. Like, dude, why are you doing this to me, man? Like, now I got to go explain why I'm putting this money in there. But I was thinking about that. I was like, I wonder how hard it was for him to get the cash out,
right?
And how hard it would be for me to get the cash out if I needed it.
So when we consider this, like when we're considering these terrible trends, what is maybe your advice for our brothers and sisters in business out there who are trying to build, who are trying to lead, and how to lead people and serve them and make sure they have better lives? How do we, exit stage left from the system, but the ability to do that maybe when you haven't been paying attention for decades or whatever time it is, or you're just young and don't have the leverage.
I mean, I think if you're an entrepreneur, you're very aware of the of the current cost of capital. So you're paying attention to it, hopefully. And if you're listening to this podcast, we talk about it quite a bit. So hopefully you're paying attention to it. I think we're on the trajectory for a crash course. That's my take. I don't know when, I don't know why, I don't know how, and I hope it doesn't happen. Yeah. But the only inevitable future is for this thing to come crumbling down like it has always done. They've always tried to do a soft landing. 1929, 1987, .com bubble, 2008. It's all started by different things from different sectors, but it always ends the same way. Cheap money over leverage. Correction. Whether that's going to be a depression or whether that's going to be I don't think we'll see a depression because they can just print more money, but we probably will see a pretty significant recession. The only way maybe out of it is for them to reset the currency and actually like issue something new, which they've been working on, which is a digital currency.
CBDC, yeah.
But that's even scarier because it's now connected to it's not a digital decentralized currency.
Right.
Which technically we have a digital currency now. Right. Yeah. So I don't really know, but